Look at this spooky lighting. It's cloudy outside today. And so I have red lights. We don't use regular lights in this house. We use just red lights because it's better to not have blue lights on. So we're having a little spooky kind of campfire, maybe. Maybe it looks like a little campfire moment for this video. Little little salt lamp and some red light. You can see my shadow and everything. Screw lighting. This is how it's supposed to be. I'm not gonna go buy a light quality of video. It's the content that matters. Just do it on some recording instead of having my face. March 27th. Today is March 27th. Let's read a little Mark Nepo, the Book of Awakening, helping us awaken. Song is not a luxury, but a necessary way of being in the world. Somehow we have been fooled into thinking that song is entertainment, something we can do without, like dessert. But to give voice to what lives inside is what keeps all things possible. In truth, the minute we arrive, we are born singing, though this is often mistaken for crying. Yet without this deep reflex, the lungs won't work, and the lifelong exchange between inner and outer can't begin. Whoa, that's kind of beautiful. Inner and outer, wow. I remember my first day alone at home after my rib surgery. For the first time in months, everything was still, the morning light now filling the space where my rib used to be. Suddenly, finally, I began to weep loudly as pockets of fear and pain and exhaustion escaped. This release was a song, and what I hadn't realized was that once released, once the buildup of my journey was given a way out, life with its thousand energies and softness could come in. Such a simple secret. By letting things out, we also let things in. So if you're cut off, in pain, estranged, numb, sing. Give voice to anything. It needn't sound pretty. Simply, bravely, open despite the difficulty, and let what is in out, and what is out in. Sing, and your life will continue. Whoa! Center yourself and locate one pocket of pain or fear or exhaustion that is building inside you. Breathe your way into that pocket. Inhale into the buildup. Exhale, letting what's in there make its way out into the world. Realize that your breath is the passageway that connects your inner buildup with the air of the outer world. Realize that the sound of your breath is the quietest of songs. That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Whoa. What a life. Shall we continue on reading this beautiful book, Sense and Sensibility, Chapter 22, XXII. That's an easy one. Haven't heard much from the Dashwoods, I'll say. We haven't heard much from the Dashwoods, and I'm confused about it. So hopefully we'll get to hear, what the Dashwoods' experience of all these people are. We've just been meeting a bunch of other people and hearing them talk. But it has been funny. I did watch a video that was like, you can either read Jane Austen that it's funny and quippy, or you can read it through the satire that she had about the whole society. And I feel like we can do both. I feel like I'm definitely oh, that is satirical, but she's also funny. She is also funny. Marianne, who had never much toleration for anything like impertinence, vulgarity, inferiority of parts, or even difference of taste from herself, was at this time particularly ill-disposed from the state of her spirits to be pleased with the Miss Steeles or encouraged to their advances. and to the invariable coldness of her behaviour towards them, which checked every endeavour at intimacy on their side. Eleanor principally attributed that preference of herself, which soon became evident in the manners of both, but especially of Lucy, who missed no opportunity of engaging her in conversation, or of striving to improve their acquaintance by an easy and frank communication of her sentiments. This is all one sentence. That's all one sentence. I feel like in high school that was illegal. They're like too long in red. Too long. Please break this up. It doesn't make any sense. Your writing doesn't make any sense, and it's too long, and you clearly don't understand punctuation. To me, not to Jane. Obviously, this is beautiful. Lucy was naturally clever. Her remarks were often just and amusing, and as a companion for half an hour Eleanor frequently found her agreeable. But her powers had received no aid from education. Your powers have really received no aid from education, huh? I love that. She was ignorant and illiterate, and a deficiency of all mental improvement. Her want of information in the most common particulars could not be concealed from Miss Dashwood, in spite of a constant endeavour to appear to advantage. This is so funny. Eleanor saw and pitied her for the neglect of abilities which education might have rendered so respectable. But she saw with less tenderness of feeling, though through want of delicacy of rectitude and integrity of mind, which her attentions, her assiduities, assiduities, assiduity. I was gonna say it like that, but that sounded crazy. Assiduities, really. Constant or close attention to what one is doing. Oh. Her attentions, her assiduities, her flatteries, I'm having a stroke, at the park betrayed, and she could have no lasting satisfaction in the company of a person who joined insincerity with ignorance. God, this is harsh. Whose want of instruction prevented their meeting in conversation on terms of equality, and whose conduct towards others made every show of attention and deference towards herself perfectly valueless. There should be a book, maybe there already is, of like Regency era disses. I feel like this whole paragraph would be in that book. You will think my question an odd one, I dare say, said Lucy to her one day as they were walking together from the park to the cottage. But pray, are you personally acquainted with your sister-in-law's mother, Mrs. Ferrars? Eleanor did think the question a very odd one, and her countenance expressed it, as she answered that she had never seen Mrs. Ferrars. Indeed, replied Lucy. I wonder at that, for I thought you must have seen her at Norland sometimes. Then perhaps you cannot tell me what sort of woman she is. No, returned Eleanor, cautious of giving her real opinion of Edward's mother, and not very desirous of satisfying what seemed impertinent curiosity. I know nothing of her. I am sure you think me very strange for inquiring about her in such a way, said Lucy, eyeing Eleanor attentively as she spoke. But perhaps there may be a reason. I wish I might venture. But however, I hope you will do me the justice of believing that I do not mean to be impertinent. Eleanor made her a civil reply, and they walked on a few minutes in silence. It was broken by Lucy, who renewed the subject again by saying with some hesitation, I cannot bear to have you think me impertinently curious. I am sure I would rather do anything in the world than to be thought so by a person whose good opinion is so well worth having as yours. And I am sure I should not have the smallest fear of trusting you. Indeed, I should be very glad of your advice how to manage such an uncomfortable situation as I am. manage in such... Okay. But however, there is no occasion to trouble you. I am sorry you do not happen to know Mrs. Ferrars. I am sorry I do not, said Eleanor in great astonishment, if it could be of any use to you to know my opinion of her, but really I never understood that you were at all connected with the family, and therefore I am a little surprised, I confess, at so serious an inquiry into her character. I dare say you are, and I'm sure I do not at all wonder at it, but if I dared tell you all, you would not be so much surprised. Mrs. Ferrars is certainly nothing to me at present, but the time may come, how soon it will come must depend upon herself, when we may be very intimately connected. She looked down as she said this, amiably bashful, with only one side glance at her companion to observe its effects on her. Good heavens, cried Eleanor, what do you mean? Are you acquainted with Mr. Robert Ferrars? Can you be? And she did not feel much delighted with the idea of such a sister-in-law. No, replied Lucy, not to Mr. Robert Ferrars. I never saw him in my life, but fixing her eyes upon Eleanor, to his elder brother. What felt Eleanor at that moment? Astonishment, that would have been as painful as it was strong, and had not an immediate disbelief of the assertion attended it. She turned toward Lucy in silent amazement, unable to divine the reason or object of such a declaration. And though her complexion varied, she stood firm in incredulity, and felt in no danger of a hysterical fit or swoon. Mr. Robert Ferrars' older brother's Edward Ferrars, and that's the one that Eleanor really likes. Shoot. You may well be surprised, continued Lucy, for to be sure you could have had no idea of it before, for I dare say he never dropped the smallest hint of it to you or any of your family, because it was always meant to be a great secret, and I am sure has been faithfully kept so by me to his hour. Not a soul of all of my relations know of it but Anne, and I should never have mentioned it to you if I had not felt the greatest dependence in the world upon your secrecy, and I really thought my behaviour in asking so many questions about Mrs. Ferrars must seem so odd that it ought to be explained. And I do not think Mr. Ferrars can be displeased when he knows I have trusted you, because I know he has the highest opinion in the world of all your family, and looks upon yourself and the other Miss Dashwoods quite as his own sisters. She paused. Ooh, friend zone. Friend zone Eleanor, huh? Eleanor for a few moments remained silent. Her astonishment at what she heard was at first too great for words. But at length, forcing herself to speak, and to speak cautiously, she said with a calmness of manner which tolerably well concealed her surprise and solicitude, "May I ask if your engagement is of long standing? We have been engaged these 4 years." 4 years? Yes. Eleanor, though greatly shocked, still felt unable to believe it. "I did not know," said she, "that you were even acquainted till the other day." "Our acquaintance, however, is of many years' date. He was under my uncle's care, you know, a considerable while." "Your uncle?" "Yes, Mr. Pratt. Did you ever hear of him talk of Mr. Pratt?" "I think I have," replied Eleanor, with an exertion of spirits which increased with her increase of emotion. "He was 4 years with my uncle, who lives at Longstaple, near Plymouth. It was there our acquaintance begun, for my sister and me was often staying with my uncle, and it was there our engagement was formed, though not till a year after he had quitted as pupil, but he was almost always with us afterwards. I was very unwilling to enter into it, as you may imagine, without the knowledge and approbation of his mother, but I was too young and loved him too well to be so prudent as I ought to have been. But you do not know him as well as me, so well as me, Miss Dashwood. You must have seen enough of him to be sensible he is very capable of making a woman sincerely attached to him." "Certainly," answered Eleanor, without knowing what she said. But after a moment's reflection she added, with a revived security of Edward's honour and love, and her companion's falsehood, "Engaged to Mr. Edward Ferrars! I confess myself so totally surprised at what you tell me that really I beg your pardon, but surely there must be some mistake of person or name. We cannot mean the same Mr. Ferrars." We can mean no other, cried Lucy, smiling. Mr. Edward Ferrars, the eldest son of Mrs. Ferrars of Park Street, and brother of your sister-in-law, Miss John Dashwood, is the person I mean. You must allow that I am not likely to be deceived as to name the man on whom all my happiness depends. Ugh. It is strange, replied Eleanor in almost a painful perplexity, that I should never have heard him even mention your name. He actually didn't talk about you at all. That's so interesting. Are you sure he said nothing, actually, of any being in love at all? No, considering our situation, it was not strange. Our first care has been to keep the matter secret. You knew nothing of me or my family, and therefore could be no occasion for ever mentioning my name to you. And as he was always particularly afraid of his sister suspecting anything, that was reason enough for his not mentioning it. She was silent. Eleanor's security sunk, but her self-command did not sink with it. 4 years you've been engaged, said she with a firm voice. Yes, and heaven knows how much longer we have to wait. Poor Edward, it puts him quite out of heart. Then taking a small miniature from her pocket, she added, to prevent the possibility of mistake, be so good as to look at his face. It does not do him justice, to be sure, but yet I think you cannot be deceived as to the person it was drew for. I have had it above these 3 years. She put it into her hands as she spoke, and when Eleanor saw the painting, whatever other doubts her fear of a too hasty decision, or her wish of detecting falsehood might suffer to linger in her mind, she could have none of its being Edward's face. She returned it almost instantly, acknowledging the likeness. I have never been able, continued Lucy, to give him my picture in return, which I am very much vexed at, for he has been always so anxious to get it, but I am determined to set for it the very first opportunity. You are quite in the right, replied Eleanor calmly. Then they proceeded a few paces in silence. Lucy spoke first. I am sure, said she, I have no doubt in the world you're faithfully keeping this secret, because you must know of what importance it is to us not to have to reach his mother, for she would never approve it, I dare say. I shall have no fortune, and I fancy she is an exceedingly proud woman. I certainly did not seek your confidence, said Eleanor, but you do me no more than justice in imagining that I may be depended on it. Your secret is safe with me, but pardon me if I express some surprise at so unnecessary a communication. You must at least have felt that my being acquainted with it could not add to its safety. As she said this, she looked earnestly at Lucy, hoping to discover something in her countenance, perhaps the falsehood of the greatest part of what she had been saying, but Lucy's countenance suffered no change. I was afraid you would think I was taking a great liberty with you, said she, in telling you all this. I have not known you long, to be sure, personally at least, but I have known you and all your family by description a great while, and as soon as I saw you, I felt as if you was an old acquaintance. I felt almost as if you was an old acquaintance. Besides, in the present case, I really thought some explanation was due to you after making such particular inquiries about Edward's mother, and I'm so unfortunate that I have not a creature whose advice I can ask. Anne is the only person that knows of it, and she has no judgment at all. Indeed, she does me a great deal more harm than good, for I am in constant fear of her betraying me. She does not know how to hold her tongue, as you must perceive, and I am sure I was in the greatest fright in the world t'other day, when Edward's name was mentioned by Sir John, lest she should out with it all. You can't think how much I go through in my mind from it altogether. I only wonder that I am alive after what I have suffered for Edward's sake these last 4 years. Everything is such suspense and uncertainty, and seeing him so seldom, we can hardly meet above twice a year. I am sure I wonder my heart is not quite broke. Here she took out her handkerchief, but Eleanor did not feel very compassionate. Sometimes, continued Lucy after wiping her eyes, I think whether it would not be good for both of us to break off the matter entirely. As she said this, she looked directly at her companion. But then at other times I have not resolution enough for it. I cannot bear the thoughts of making him so miserable, as I know the very mention of a thing would do. And on my account, too, so dear as he is to me, I don't think I could be equal to it. What would you advise me to do in such a case, Miss Dashwood? What would you do yourself? Pardon me, replied Elinor, startled by the question, but I can give you no advice under such circumstances. Your own judgment must direct you. To be sure, continued Lucy, after a few minutes' silence on both sides, his mother must provide for him some time or other, but Edward is so cast down about it. Do not you think him dreadful low spirit when he was at Barton? He was so miserable when he left us at Longstaple to go to you, and I was afraid you would think him quite ill. Did he come from your uncle's, then, when he visited us? Oh, yes. He had been staying a fortnight with us. Did you think he came directly from town? No, replied Elinor, most feelingly sensible of fresh circumstance in favour of Lucy's veracity. I remember he told us that he had been staying a fortnight with some friends near Plymouth. She remembered, too, her own surprise at the time at his mentioning no farther of those friends, and at his total silence with respect even to their names. Ugh, these men in this society, sneaky little sneaks. Did you not think him sadly out of spirits? Repeated Lucy. We did indeed, particularly so when he first arrived. I begged him to exert himself, for fear you should suspect what was the matter, but it made him so melancholy not being able to stay more than a fortnight with us, and seeing me so much affected, poor fellow. I am afraid it is just the same with him now, for he writes in a wretched spirits. I heard from him just before I left Exeter. Taking a letter from her pocket and carelessly showing it the direction to Elinor. You know his hand, I dare say, a charming one it is. But that is not written so well as usual. He was tired, I dare say, for he had just filled the sheet to me as full as possible. Elinor saw it was his hand, and she could doubt no longer. The picture, she had allowed herself to believe, might have been accidentally obtained. It might not have been Edward's gift, but a correspondence between them by letter could subsist only under a positive engagement, could be authorized by nothing else. For a few moments she was almost overcome. Her heart sunk within her, and she could hardly stand, but exertion was indispensably necessary. And she struggled so resolutely against the oppression of her feelings that her success was speedy, and for the time complete. She does have to go back and feel her feelings, though, and she may need to sing it out, as we learned from Mark Nepo. She may actually need to sing and cry this out, for crying is singing. Writing to each other, said Lucy, returning the letter into her pocket, is the only comfort we have in such long separations. Yes, I have one other comfort in his picture, but poor Edward has not even that. If he had but my picture, he says he should be easy. I gave him a lock of my hair set in a ring when he was at Longstaple last, and that was some comfort to him, he said, but not equal to a picture. Perhaps you might notice the ring when you saw him. She thought it was her hair. I did, said Elinor, with a composure of voice under which was concealed an emotion and distress beyond anything she had ever felt before. She was mortified, shocked, confounded. Fortunately for her, they had now reached the cottage, and the conversation could be continued no farther. After sitting with them a few minutes, the Miss Steeles returned to the park, and Elinor was then at liberty to think and be wretched. Poor Elinor. She's definitely handling this differently than how Marianne would. Whoa! I didn't even realize, or maybe I did and I just forgot. Look, you guys, we've reached the first safe zone. What do they call it? I haven't played video games in so long. Anyway, we're at volume 2. Who knew there was how many volumes are in this thing? Is it just 2? Just 2 volumes. We're finished with the first volume. Like, what makes a second volume? There are 3 volumes. Oh, wow. Huh. We'll come back next time and we'll begin volume 2 of Sense and Sensibility. Ta-ta and happy reading.